Which kind of lights they carry up and down like this? Really guide me. Because this black pocket right is I never carry on. I want to run this pocket. You're keeping long.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Can you use me?
Yeah, good afternoon and welcome to our pre-elections and press conference ahead of the governorship elections for March 18th on Saturday. This is our mini data center, and by tomorrow, properly set up at our major data center on M2. But this afternoon, we'll be sharing our pre-elections findings, our deployment plan for the elections, and also we'll be sharing our reports, our findings from the elections manipulation risk index. My name is Cynthia Mbamalu. I'm the Director of Programs for Yiaga Africa. And on the table today, addressing the friends this afternoon, to my immediate right, we have Dr. Chris Kwaja. He's a member of the Yiaga Africa's working group for Watching the Vote project. To my immediate left, we have Chris. He's also a member of the Yiaga Africa Working Group. And he will be leading and sharing our press statement. To his immediate left, we have Dr. Asma Omikudi. She's a member of the Yiaga Africa's working group for the Watching the Vote project. And next to her, we have Professor Nnamdi Aduba, who is also a member of the Yiaga Africa's working group for the Watching the Vote project. Sorry, the media, I feel like, yeah. This afternoon, we recognize the presence of our civil society partners present here. Thank you for making our time to be part of this briefing. We also recognize our international partners. Thank you for joining the press conference today. Our media partners also present here. It's good to have you all here. We are currently conducting our Simulation 2 exercise. The simulation exercise helps us test our technology and also assess the capacity of our observers in the field. So after the press statement, would share and would also project our database just so that you'd see how the exercise is ongoing. Currently, we have our 900 observers deployed in 3 states where the PVT will be conducted. The observers are currently sending in messages from their respective polling units. We want to ensure that first our systems are ready for the elections and also that the observers understand the process. So we'll talk to you a bit about that after the first statement. We're waiting for the mic.
Well, if the mic is not here, I don't know if
for the media,
if I'm audible enough. Okay. Excellent.
Okay, so that being said, thank you for the permission to proceed. I would invite Chief Ezenwangwagu to share our pre-elections findings for the March 18 governorship elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. We haven't sacked the chairman of our board. He's currently not around, Dr. Hussein Abdu, and Samson Itubu is also on another mission. Because people ask the question, they say we're always changing faces all the time. But we're compacting, and once any of them is not around, somebody steps in, and I'll be leading this mission. Mission for the March 23 elections. So Nigeria will once again go to the polls to elect governors nationwide. The elections will be the last round of elections. It will be the last round of elections in the 28 states and state lawmakers across the 36 states nationwide. The elections will be the last rounds of election in the 23 electoral cycle and present an opportunity for citizens to decide their state leaders for the next 4 years. The March 18 governorship and state assembly elections present another opportunity for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to improve on the logistics and technological challenges experienced during the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections. This time, the stakes and expectations are understandably higher, with the elections expected to be competitively unpredictable. As observed by Yiaga Africa on the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections, the late commencement of polls, deployment of insufficient election materials, and not conducting election in some polling units caused major hardship to voters and denied some voters the opportunity to vote. Our findings noted a few polling units where voters were denied opportunities to vote. Our findings noted a few polling units where voters were permitted to vote without due accreditation with the beavers and the undue delay in uploading the polling unit results on the INEC election results viewing portal, IREP. In addition, a major learning from the presidential election is that logistical challenges and disregard for electoral guidelines undermine public confidence in the electoral process and outcome. For the March 18 governorship election, Yiaga Africa is deploying a comprehensive and systematic observation of the elections, which involves deploying the parallel vote tabulation PVT to observe the governorship elections in 3 states of Benue, Delta, and Kano. Yiaga Africa will also be deploying stationary and roving observers to observe and report the election day process in the other 25 states. Further, at the end of polls, Yiaga Africa will be deploying observers to all local government areas and state results collation centers in all the states where elections will be conducted to observe and report on the governorship results collation process. This briefing is the first in the series of 3 planted press conferences to be hosted by Yiaga Africa for this election. We equally invite you to join us at the Watching the Vote Data Center, which will be at the floor M2 Imo Rivers Hall, Transcorp here in Abuja on Saturday the 18th at 1. To join us again on Saturday, the 19th of March 2023 at 2 p.m. when Yiaga Africa will share its post-election statement on the conduct of the elections. Summary of our pre-election findings. First, deployment of election materials. Yiaga Africa notes the deployment of election materials across the states, with at least 26 states confirming deployment of sensitive and non-sensitive materials to the local government areas of the state. While this is a positive sign, Yiaga Africa calls on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to ensure proper coordination and communication with the transport companies and unions providing logistic support to ensure early deployment of materials and personnel to polling units on election day. This will break the trend of the late commencement of polls. Secondly, the redeployment of INEC personnel. The commission was seen to have made some swift changes with the deployment of electoral officers in the states like Rivers and withdrawing the resident electoral commissioners in Abia and Sokoto states from participation in the March 18 elections. The commission's action should not stop at only suspending the regs, but ensuring sanctions for any personnel that violates electoral guidelines. 3. The status of the beavers. Yiaga Africa received reports from across the states that the commission reconfigured a substantial number of bimodal voter accreditation systems ahead of the Saturday polls. Some states like Oyo reported receipt of additional 406 beavers as backup. As of 15 March 2023, Yiaga Africa received reports from Rivers State that there were 22 beavers unaccounted for or missing and 3 damaged beavers. 4. Cases of voter inducement. As citizen mobilization efforts intensify ahead of the elections, Yiaga Africa has received reports of voter inducement through the distribution of gift items and money transfers, wire money transfers by the political actors. Specifically, Yiaga Africa received reports of the distribution of money and food items by supporters of the APC in Bakia, Banchogul, Tarka LGA, Benue State. The APC and the PDP representatives were seen collecting voters' bank account details in Damaturu and Potiskum LGAs in Yobe State to make wire transfers ahead of the elections. From Akwa Ibom, Yiaga Africa also received reports that the PDP youths in the Ibeno local government area were given a cash inducement of 1,000 naira, 1 million naira after they had endorsed a candidate on Sunday, March 12, 2023. On election security, the pre-election period has recorded relative calm since the February 25th election with no major reports of insecurity. In addition, Yiaga Africa received troubling reports about the proliferation of light arms and small weapons in Abua, Odua, Andoni, Akukutoro, Asaritoru, Eleme, Gokana, Kana, and Tai local government areas in Rivers State. House of Assembly candidates from Ogba, Egbema, Ndoni State constituency elections allegedly abducted in Rivers State. These incidents have created a tense atmosphere ahead of the elections in the state. Ethnic and religious tension. There has been a trend in both ethnic and religious divisive conversation in some states, especially post the 2015 February elections. Yiaga Africa has also received reports about recurring incidents of clashes between herdsmen and farmers in Uchagbeji, Vase, Boyko, IT communities in Ukum LGA, and Nkomom, Mun, Mbakyo, and Liev communities in Kwande local government area in Benue states. Lingering impact of Naira scarcity. One of the reasons behind the logistics challenges experienced during the presidential election was due to unavailability of cash, which impacted the transportation of drivers from registration area centers to polling units. This is despite the promise made by the Central Bank of Nigeria that it will make available all the needed cash for effective logistics deployment. Yiaga Africa is worried that if the challenges of scarcity of cash are not addressed, the Commission may experience further logistic challenges, which will no doubt impact the quality of the process. Possibility of low voter turnout. Yiaga Africa is concerned that the low turnout of voters of the presidential elections will be repeated for the gubernatorial elections. While INEC and others have continued to encourage voters to turn out for elections, citizen confidence in the Commission, poor voter education, along with the lingering impacts of the naira scarcity, may again impact voter turnout. Our recommendations. INEC must ensure the shortcomings observed in the previous elections are properly addressed ahead of the governorship elections. INEC should ensure proper and consistent communication with the transport unions and companies providing logistic support to ensure any election day deployment. This also includes the need to ensure that only trained ad hoc officials are deployed on election day. Contingency plans in situations where respective transport unions companies withdraw from the contract or fail to deploy. INEC should ensure proper and timely communication with stakeholders on the election day process, challenges experienced, and immediate plans to address those challenges to inspire confidence in the process. Yiaga Africa calls on the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security Access to ensure that security personnel deployed complies with the Code of Conduct on Election Security. This includes professionalism in their conduct, arrest of electoral offenders, and respect for the rights of citizens, media, and observers, including the right to freedom of movement on election day for duly accredited observers and media practitioners. Yiaga Africa calls on political parties, candidates, and their supporters to commit to peaceful campaigns ahead of the election, and on election day, refrain from vote buying and compromising the secrecy of the ballot. Yiaga Africa urges voters to resist efforts to purchase their votes and turn out in their numbers and vote according to their preferences on Saturday, March 18th, and remain peaceful during election. Watching the vote observation of the 2023 governorship election. On March 18th, we will be deploying 1,547 duly trained, accredited stationary and roving observers to observe the conduct of the governorship election in 28 states. Yiaga Africa will be deploying the parallel vote tabulation (PVT) methodology to observe the governorship elections in Benue, Delta, and Kano states. This will involve deploying 900 stationary observers to a representative, randomly selected sample of 300 polling units for each of the states. Yiaga Africa will also be deploying 97 roving observers in the 3 states. Additionally, Yiaga Africa will deploy 517 stationary observers and 33 roving observers in the other 25 states where the governorship elections will be held, to observe and report on the entire election day process from setup of the polling units, accreditation, voting, announcement, and posting of the official results, and will send in periodic reports to the Watching the Vote National Data Center. At the end of polls, Yiaga Africa observers will deploy to all LGAs and state results collation centers to observe and report results collation process. This deployment will enable Yiaga Africa to provide the most timely and accurate information on the governorship elections in the states. Using the PVT, Yiaga Africa will also deploy an independent projection of voter turnout in Benue, Delta, and Kano states, and will be able to project the vote shares that each party should receive within a narrow estimated range. If the official results fall within Yiaga Africa's estimated ranges, then the public, political parties, and candidates should have confidence in the ballot cast at the polling units. Only INEC, however, has the legal mandate to announce the election results. As soon as INEC announces the official results, Yiaga Africa will follow up with results verification press conference to share a statement on the accuracy of the election results. utilizing information communication technology and statistical principles. PVT is the gold standard for citizen election observation and has been utilized throughout Africa and the world. Yiaga Africa has also deployed this methodology in the 2023 presidential election and 11 off-cycle gubernatorial elections in Nigeria. Yiaga Africa restates its commitment to the objective of non-partisan, credible observation of the election. The watching the votes is driven by data for all Nigerians and beholden to none. Thank you, and God bless the people of Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Please, we now open the floor for questions and comments. If we have questions and comments, once we're done with that, we will share our findings from the elections manipulation risk index, hence the projector here. So we'll be projecting the findings. But do we have comments and questions so far? Yes. We have, okay, we'll take numbers 1, 2, 3. Thank you. So we'll start with my sister on my left.
My name is Ibn Okafu. I work with the Committee to Protect Journalists in CPG. I heard you talk about the need for security agencies to ensure that the media or other persons have access to wherever they need to go on the election day. But I did not hear much about the, Yiaga, just like other civil society organizations, have a stake in ensuring that those who attack or cause any kind of election malpractice or election flaws on days of elections are held to account. Now, so I didn't hear anything about the various attacks that were perpetrated on journalists during the presidential election, and I found the need. I felt the need to actually mention that because there's a massive increase in the number of attacks against the press in this election, that's the presidential election, when you compare it to what had happened during the 2019 general elections, while we had about just merely 5. That was bad, of course. 5 journalists attacked in 2019. We had on the day of elections, CPJ found that about 14 journalists were attacked on the day of election itself. And after the elections, the International Press Center has a report that they issued at the end of their own observations after the elections, and over 20 journalists were attacked. So when you check that, the figure is massive.
Okay.
So what is your take on this, and how do you intend to ensure that, also call on security agencies to hold this person's accountable?
Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Fred Oloko. I work with the institute. Actually, my concern has to do with the area of security or likely violence. Before now, we have heard of the tense political atmosphere in Rivers, Abia, Lagos, Kano, and some other areas. So one would have expected Yiaga Africa to really give us the number of states where you would likely feel that there might be a likely flashpoints, so that you'll be able to conscientize security agencies for them to bring their own attention. So how many states are you listing as probable flashpoints?
Okay. Thank you, Friday. Abbas, I'm looking for you. Okay. Yes, please, your question.
On the Yiaga Africa report for the presidential election, singled out Rivers and other states. Now, on Saturday, we are going to have another election. So, how is Yiaga Africa going to cope with the shock surprise that you said might be expected in the governorship and Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think the last question.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Joseph Kadiri,
I think this information, especially when elections waiting for the night, and INEC is doing provision for generators. And we saw that voters will be one that help INEC or help the ad hoc staff with, that source of power. That alone can jeopardize the process. So let's get to hear what your comment is.
Thank you for this round of questions.
I think for the security challenge we've seen, what we did in the observation here was to capture some of the key issues we've seen across the state, but most importantly, to call on the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security to ensure that all security personnel deployed do two things. First, uphold the dictates of professionalism as it relates to the code of conduct on elections. And two, arrest offenders. And it's not just about arresting, ensuring they are prosecuted, which also touches on the point you raised about journalists. Journalists are out, accredited to observe the elections, and where you have cases of journalists being assaulted or maltreated by security personnel or any other person, as far as the laws of this country are concerned, such individuals are supposed to be arrested. And if it's perpetrated by security personnel themselves, then the relevant institutions, particularly the ICAS that is supposed to coordinate all issues around election security, is supposed to work on that. And that's why the International Press Center released that report. And it's not just about releasing the report. This is something that we hope will be followed through to ensure that the individuals involved are prosecuted. Thank you.
Sorry, I wanted to find out if there are some states.
Yeah, we will respond to that.
We are here. We have not run away Friday.
Thank you. I just want to touch on what somebody raised about the issue of on the day of the presidential election. I saw some places where people were assisting. I think it was the voters that were assisting with their flashlights, some with their telephones, so that the counting process can continue. I want to say that I was part of INEC for 5 years, and I know that for every election, INEC provides brand new generators for the RAC centers and the local government and the collation centers. So I think I'm not a spokesperson for INEC, but I believe what must have happened was the lingering fuel crisis that we experienced at that time. Maybe it was a factor, but it's just a one-off situation or a few cases. It's not so rampant, so that's why Yiaga felt that there was no need to mention that. It's not as if we did not notice here. We noticed, but we know that it's not rampant. So that's why Yiaga did not mention that one. Thank you for the observation.
Well, so you remember,
Yeah.
Friday, we did mention Rivers that light weapons, and we did identify the number of local governments where our reporters have filed in report that light weapons are already in circulation. So we don't have to tell you what that means. But our statement is very clear around those. And there are other states that we have also identified in the report, which clearly points to the fact that those are, but always know that these issues are sociological and they are fluid. So if you are involved in election work, everywhere is important that you protect yourself. Don't say because we mentioned rivers, you can then go to Sokoto and it will be an issue. So it's a fluid and very sociological situation. There are also one issue that has continued to come out in this election is the sin of exaggeration. There are 176,000 polling units. And I'm referring to you, Joseph. 176,000 polling units. In Abuja, we were focused on Lugbe. We put all the satellites on Lugbe where people voted into the night. What about the thousands of polling units where people voted seamlessly? So when you look at that, because election has to also be looked at from the broader point of view. I know that one place where it didn't go well is what is news, but it is better news to also talk about where it went well. And because when we play that up, where citizens assisted and then give the impression that it is pervasive, that's not what happened everywhere. In many other polling units, people voted and left. There were even polling units where voters were not winning, because of the same challenge that we have raised. It's very, very important. Our collaboration in the CSO system involves even our media partners and their reports and its amplification. So when CP issues a report, it's also part of our business to amplify it, because the media is also civil society. And so it's always very important. You are not government either. So we are working together. If you have already issued reports, we don't need to say what you have said just for the purpose of saying you have already said it. You are a partner, and we are working together. I think that is very important. So 14 attacks, 20 attacks, even one attack to a citizen diminishes all of us. And I think it's the responsibility of the security agencies to ensure that we have a peaceful environment and the statement is already very clear about that. We want to have free access where citizens can vote in a very peaceful atmosphere. And that's the responsibility of, nobody should tell them to arrest, prosecute, and ensure that people who break the law during elections are and I think Yiaga Africa has made this point over and over. And we will continue to emphasize that it is the right of citizens to vote in a peaceful atmosphere, much more on Saturday, whether they are journalists or any other person. And I think that is important.
Yeah, thank you. Perhaps just to add to the question around recommendations to INEC on the process itself. Like has already been mentioned, it's the conversation around the late commencement of polls. If that is addressed, it also ensures that polling units open on time and the voting process concludes on time when we do that within daylight, which is why one of our major recommendations is for INEC to ensure early commencement of polls across the country, just so that we do not have polling units voting into the night. Because once we comment on time, by 3-4 p.m., a lot of the process should be concluded at the polling unit and people move to collation. On the conversation around collation, we also mentioned the important need for INEC to ensure their contingency plans are in place for logistics management. Issues around generators are usually provided for the RACs, that is the registration area centers, and the LGAs, which is where collation happens. So we have collation at the ward level, collation at the local government level, where we expect that those activities will conduct or will be happening into the night. We know that resources are provided for generators to be made available at those locations. And it is the responsibility of the resident electoral commissioners at the state level, the electoral officers at the local government level, to ensure that these equipment that have been provided for are adequately deployed for the processes to be held without any stress to the officials and even stress to the citizens and party agents who will be present at those locations. So there is a call for those things to be properly done. On the issues around Rivers and Imo, that was at the presidential level we had highlighted that. However, for these elections, like we mentioned, we have PBT in 3 states, but we're observing the other states, where 25 states where governorship elections will be conducted. We also, our goal is to provide findings, both for our PBT states and the other 25 states, on how the process was conducted at the polling unit, and also the results collation at the local government levels and at the state collation centers. I don't know if we have any other question, because we want to quickly share. My colleague, Dr. Sam, will be projecting our elections manipulation risk index. Now, Friday I asked about flashpoint states. Now, please, Friday, pay attention. Yes, thank you. The Emory highlights states where where our findings indicate possible risk for elections manipulation. And there are 6 variables which we'll be tracking for the past years. This is the 3rd report since 2019 actually, down to the election cycle for these elections. And Dr. Sam Obuche will be sharing that, highlighting some of those states where we have specific worries about. This is not as it relates to security, because we don't like to duplicate efforts. We have partners who track security issues, and we have situational partners who also monitor situational analysis. So ours is focused strictly on states where we think there are possible risks of elections manipulation. Dr. Sam, are you ready?
Yes.
Please, I'm over to you. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Quickly, the election manipulation risk index is an evidence-based and a data-driven tool that has been designed to curb election manipulation. As we saw in the first situation report, it is intended to give INEC an idea of what happens in the electoral process, and also give citizens a platform to undertake oversight of the electoral process. The Emory is based on 6 variables. The first one is INEC capture. Let's move. INEC capture. And this has to do with deployment of RECs with personal background. It also has to do with inexperienced RECs being deployed. It also deals with attacks and intimidation of INEC officials. Then we have the second one, which is tampering with the voters register. Now, if you look at that, we have instances where underage persons were registered. And then in some cases, persons who are ineligible, like foreigners, were also registered. This goes to the integrity of the voters register for the purpose of the election. Then we also have voter suppression as another variable. And this deals with instances where voters are discouraged from voting. One of the cases or indicators of this variable is PVC buyout by politicians. We also have cases of unavailability of PVCs, for some voters. We have vandalization of INEC offices and the rest of them. Then we have the next one, which is resistance to election technology. Under this variable, we have had cases where people openly oppose the Beavers and the IREP, and this also has to do with the electoral process. Then we have history of election fraud. Under this, you can see falsification of results, declaration of results under duress, overvoting, vote buying. All this information we derive them mostly from judicial authorities and INEC reports. And then we have the last one, which is frivolous litigation against the electoral process. Then
Go to the maps. The maps.
Let's run to the maps. Okay. Having gone through this process, this third treasury report has 27 states that are not categorized as high-risk states, 27 of them. And the methodology is any state that has 3 and above of this variable
is considered as a high-risk state, while anyone that has 2 is medium risk. So we have 27 states as high-risk states now, 9 as medium risk, and we do not have any low-risk states. Now, these are the states. This map is showing states with high election manipulation risk. These are the 27 states. As you can see the pattern, it means these states have 3 and above. There are some of them that have all the variables. Then we move again. You see this medium risk. Next one. Okay, these are the states under INEC capture. Then you look at the next one. We have those under tampering. Yes, move. Yes, the voters register, 21 states. Then voter suppression has 33 states. And then the next one, which is resistance, has 5 states. In fact, if we move, let's see the next slide. Here, history of election fraud. 19 states are here. And then the next one, 20 states, election litigation. Then we will move. Before we go into that, what we did also is to look at the lessons from the presidential and national assembly elections. And we found out that, look, these variables played out in the elections. INEC capture, for example, we saw instances of intimidation of INEC officials. In fact, we saw instances in Sokoto, for example, the REC was suspended. It goes to, and it's one of the newly appointed RECs. So it shows that the variable under the first and second iteration reports played out in the election. And what this does now is to prepare INEC and the citizens for the forthcoming state level election. And again, if you look at voter suppression, this happened severally across many states. Tampering of the voters, in fact, we have cases of underage voting across the state, across some states anyway. The states are listed in the report with references. We have seen voter suppression. It came in various forms. In fact, there are reports that in Sokoto State, POS was used to buy votes. And this is like what we call prepaid and postpaid models of vote buying. And this played out. In Lagos State too, we had reports of vote buying. In fact, in some places, PVCs were found in the building. And these things are there. We also have reports now that one oral court ritual has been fixed. And on the day of the election in Lagos. And these have been viewed as capable of, putting voters away. Now, what would be the recommendations? The mitigating measures. They have been put there against each variable. For example, most of those things have been said in the earlier reports, the earlier statement, and they all speak to each of these variables. All, at the end of it all, it calls on INEC to act, it calls on security agencies to act, it calls on CSOs to act, and also calls on citizens to act for the purpose of the electoral process. And when these things are done, the process will be credible enough, and citizens will have more confidence in the electoral process. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the third iteration report of the Election Manipulation Risk Index. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam. So this report will also share the soft copies with you to your email address, just so you have you have time to go through the details, especially the states that we've identified as high-risk states that have at least 3 or more of the variables. Some have as high as 5 variables, and those are the states to watch out for as we observe the elections. Just to recognize our partner from the European Union present. It's good to have you here, Laulu, and our other partners from the USDGN cohort. Welcome to the press conference. Like we mentioned earlier, we have our simulation 2 ongoing, and we just share the dashboard just so you understand the technology and how we analyze and assess our data. My colleague Safia would be talking through the dashboard. We just project. This would be done in less than 5 minutes. just so you understand what the deployment system will be for the Saturday governorship elections. If you look behind, you see our data clerks behind. They are actually providing support to the observers in the field who are currently sending in reports from their respective locations. So, Sophia.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm safe to stand here.
Sophia, stand here.
Okay, thank you so much. Today is the second simulation.
Just stand where Sam stood. Here, come.
Sophia.
Yes, you can see this number.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So today is the second simulation. We're conducting the simulation for this governorship election deployment. As mentioned during the press statement, we're going to be deploying the parallel host tabulation in 3 states. That's Benue, Kano, and Delta. And we're also going to be deploying traditional observation in 25 states, making 28 states, sorry. So today being the simulation, we're conducting the simulation for 3 purposes. The first is to keep in touch with our observers. Remember that the election was postponed from last week to 18th, that's next tomorrow. And second is to check if our technology is working, and third, to ensure that all the scenario planning is intact. So today, thus far, between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., we're expected to hear from 150 persons, that's for the PVT per state. And now is about 3 minutes to 3 p.m. Between now and 4 p.m., we're expected to hear from all the 300 observers. So for Benue State, we're able to hear from a few. The dashboard will soon come up. So let me just explain how the dashboard works. So the blue section on the dashboard shows the number of people that we've heard from, the number of people that are reporting from the field, while the red shows the people that are yet to report from the field. From Benue State.
Thank you.
Yeah, hope this is Benue. From Benue State, we have reports from 262 people thus far, 254 people sending complete questions, and 8 people sending partial questions. So what we did was we came up with different scenarios for them to read and report in case it happens on election day, so that it will prepare them, and keep them active against Saturday deployment. And in Delta State, let's go to Delta to see how many people we've heard from.
Open Delta.
Delta. So this is also an indicator that our observers are, let me use the word, alive and ready to report on election day. Yes. They are like project-wise. So from Delta, we have 74 missing. We're yet to hear from 74 people. So part of the work of our data clerk is to follow up with these 74 people to find out why are we not hearing from them? Are they having issues? Are there challenges? Then secondly, if they have issues with understanding the scenarios, and the scenarios are built based on our election day guidelines. If you're having issues on understanding the scenarios, is for them to train them and teach them how to go about with the scenarios. So from Delta, we're here to hear from 74 people. Let's go to Kano State. So we believe that in the next few minutes, this is likely going to change, because as time goes on, people are reporting by the time to tell us what they to tell us that yes, they are ready for Saturday deployment. So from Kano State, we are yet to hear from 56 people, and as you can see, you can also track observers' response by local government. So apart from tracking them at the state level, you need to check. You can also check by local government. So for instance, stop please. Garko local government in Kano State, we thus far heard from four locations. We have 1 person that's still missing. We have 5 observers deployed in Garko local government, and you can see that Wala local government, we have 12 observers, we've heard from 10, and we have 2 missing. So this is how our dashboard works on election day. Once result comes in, the dashboard pops and add up the results that comes in. And if there is any partial message, that's observers reporting partially from the field, you see the yellow color pops up to tell you that there's a report coming in from this person, but the report is incomplete. So this is what we use to track our observers' response on election day, as well as to track their performance. And if you look at under every local government, the ball or the circle, you see we have missing, we have partial, we have complete, and we have conflict, because we sometimes deploy 2 observers to polling unit for quality assurance. And if 2 observers are in the same location and they're sending 2 different messages, it means there's a conflict. So we use that to also clean up data. So these are measures for cleaning up data and ensure that the reports we're getting are of good quality and we don't mislead the Nigerian people. I'm going to stop here.
Open till 5 p.m. today. So if you want to interact with us one-on-one or with the data class, please, this is the center is open for you to ask more questions. We have our checklist on the wall there, just if you want to understand the kinds of questions and the kinds of responses we expect on elections day. Please, on the wall there, we have a checklist provided. We also observe critical incidents, and so critical incidents will be sent also from the field on elections day. Observers sending their reports using their phones via text messages to our database, which is what enables us provide information in a timely fashion. And once again, thank you so much, and we look forward to welcoming you to our midday statement on Saturday, which would be from 1 p.m. on elections day, where we'll share findings on opening of polls and commencement of the process across the country. Thank you so much, and I wish you a lovely day.
We did this in 1 hour.
Like 1 hour.